歡迎收聽由 AM1320華僑之聲主辦、疏有線電視多元化文化協辦嘅2020年 BC 省選論壇。我係你今日嘅主持梁新全。Welcome to the 2020 BC Election Forum, hosted by AM1320 and co-hosted by Shaw Cable. My name is Edmund Leung, and I'll be your host for today. 大會今日咧請嚟咗3位參加競選省議員嘅候選人。Today we have invited 3 of the candidates who will be running for the 2020 BC election. 首先咧，我係會介紹每一位候選人，然後每人咧會有1分鐘時間咧係介紹佢自己嘅。Let me introduce each of the candidates to you, and each will have 1 minute to introduce herself or himself. 第一位我又好歡迎啊，代表新民主黨 NDP 周景華先生 George Chow。
各位朋友，我係周景華 George Chow。我喺2017年咧當選為省議員，代表溫哥華非首圍區。我曾經任2屆溫哥華市議員。喺從政之前呢，我係任職水電工程師。呢次嘅省選好重要，我哋 BC 新民主黨及黨領賀錦打造咗一個為民眾服務嘅政綱 Working for You。呢個計劃會為所有省民打造更美好嘅未來，能夠幫助民眾渡過疫情大流行，並確保每個人都從經濟復甦中受益。Hello everyone, I'm George Chow. I was elected in 2017 as the MLA for Vancouver Fraserville. I was on City Council for 2 terms. Before that, I was a hydroelectric engineer. Is that 1 minute?
No, PowerPoint.
Yeah, already launching into my English. Yeah, okay. This is an important election. BC NDP and leader John Horgan has released a plan called Working for You. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, this plan will build a better future for all British Columbia, a plan that will help get people through the pandemic and ensure everyone benefits from the recovery. Okay, good.
I think I'll clear this out a little bit. When you hear 1 ding, that means you're halfway through. 2 dings, that means you have 10 seconds. 3 dings, that means your time is up. 咁頭先大家聽到叮叮叮咧，其實咧1聲叮聲咧就即係佢哋已經一半啦。如果2聲咧，佢哋剩翻10秒；3聲咧，佢哋已經講完啦。Okay, the second candidate I'm going to introduce.
I think my suggestion. Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't do that first thing. If I already launch into the English, it's pretty obvious, right?
I still have to let you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Second candidate I'm going to introduce is Green Party, 綠黨 Francois Wanot。
大家好，不好意思，我不会说广东话，我只会说国语。I'm really sorry I can't speak any Cantonese. I'll be relying on a translator today. My name is Françoise Ronet. I'm the candidate for the Green Party in Vancouver Fraserview. I am a French immersion teacher. I am a mother, and I have lived in Vancouver my whole life. I care very much about our future and about our planet and about our economy, and that's why I'm running for the Green Party.
大家好，我係代表綠黨嘅 Françoise Ronet。我自己係一名法語老師，亦都係一位媽媽。我好關心呢個社會嘅狀況同埋自然環境，所以我想代表呢個社會去競逐呢個職位。
And if I have 10 more seconds, I will say that our economy is on the wrong track. Government needs to change course. We need to pick up the pace.
跟住最後咧介紹一位咧就係代表自由黨嘅 Liberal Party David Croshaw。Mr. Croshaw。
你好，我係高大衛，我溫哥華進底。My name is David Graywall. I am an engineer and business owner, and I'm running to create a more prosperous, resilient, and sustainable province for future generations. And I'm also here to advocate for all British Columbians that we all share in that prosperity in the future.
我係代表 BC 省自由黨 David Graywall 高大衛。我本身係一個工程師同埋一個商人。我好希望今次競選係創造繁榮同埋呢個未來嘅一個城市俾我哋呢個 BC 省人。 不論你在任何處方，我都希望能夠服務你。
好啦，咁啊，現在咧正式開始咧，我哋論壇嘅正式開始啦。Let's get the show going on。OK， 第二個環節咧係由我咧發問一個問題，我會用英文同埋廣東話發問。咁然後每位候選人咧連同佢翻譯咧會有2分鐘嘅時間做回應。OK，it is the part that I am going to pose a question to you people. Okay, question will be provided both in English and Cantonese. And each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer and must be in both English and Cantonese. 好啦，咁啊第一條問題咧，我就會問係 In BC, there are close to 10,200 total confirmed cases and 245 related deaths relating to COVID-19. During last week, we have daily confirmed cases of over 100. What will your party do to improve the situation?好啦，喺 BC 省咧，近期咧有接近12000多宗嘅確診個案，有245宗嘅死亡。就係上一個星期咧，每日確診嘅病例咧都超過100個。咁我想請問下你嘅政黨有乜嘢破線嘅疫情嘅方法？I'll ask the Green Party first.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. Interestingly, this is actually not my first time living through a pandemic. I lived in Taipei for the SARS epidemic of 2003, and I have really followed how Taiwan has been managing the crisis from the very beginning, and I've been very impressed with how effective their public health response has been. Because I am a teacher, I am currently working in the schools with many students, and I can see exactly where we have holes in our current pandemic response plan. I have lots of concerns. Maybe I'll let the translator translate and I'll keep going after. That can send it over for some translation.
我好高興可以問我呢個問題，因為呢個唔係我第一次經歷呢個疫情嘅。我曾經喺台灣住過，亦都對類似嘅疫情係經歷過嘅。我亦都係學校嗰度工作，所以我係對呢個事情係好多擔憂嘅。
One thing that we see right now is we have a public health crisis, we have a climate crisis, we have a social crisis, and we have an economic crisis, and they are all converging. And for too long, governments have been focused on only the 4-year election cycle, and they're not building a resilient and strong economy. The Green Party is committed that the COVID recovery needs to take into account the economy of the 21st century. We need to rebuild around sustainable energy and local jobs. We need to stop giving our money to people in other countries, and we need to invest in our public systems so that we can have a resilient community here.
跟住落咧，我有請。
10 seconds.
OK, sorry.
其實我覺得而家政府咧係應該咧將個焦點擺喺本地嘅創造就業機會，同埋呢個重啟經濟嘅。
OK, thank you.
跟住嚟咧，我哋有請自由黨 Liberal Party。
Thank you for your question. Our leader, Andrew Wilkinson, is a doctor himself. He is acutely aware of the impact that this pandemic is having on not only the health of people, but on the economy. Glynis?
好多謝呢個問題。我哋知道我哋自由黨嘅黨領Andrew Wilkinson 係一位醫生，佢有非常之豐富嘅醫療上嘅知識。
The BC Liberal Party actually hired Dr. Bonnie Henry during our last administration, and she has been doing an excellent job. We continue to support her and will continue to work closely with her after the election to ensure that British Columbians are safe and healthy.
如果我哋執政嘅話，我哋 BC 省自由黨係將會繼續邀請 Dr. Henry Bonnie 咧，就係做我哋嘅醫療上嘅顧問，咁係為我哋 BC 省咧係醫療上係尋求一個最好嘅方法。
OK, thank you. 跟住落嚟咧係 NDP 新民主黨。
we're managing, the BC NDP government has been managing well the COVID virus, but we won't stop there. We will be training more doctors and healthcare workers with the new medical school, and we will also be hiring more care workers, 7,000 of them, in order to be in the care homes as well as in hospital. We're also hiring 500 additional tracers in order to trace the people who has been in quarantine or supposed to be isolated. And we are also preparing for the winter, this autumn flu season by ordering an extra 500,000 doses and to make it like 2 million doses for the flu season. So we also ensure the care workers not working at different locations. That's very important. So these are the procedures that we are doing in order to make sure everyone is safe. 各位，我哋咧BC NDP 政府咧就manage 呢個 COVID 咧就相當成功嚇，但我哋咧就多謝各位嘅合作，但我哋唔會睇嗰度停止嘅，因為我哋會去繼續去訓練多啲醫生同埋護士同埋護理人員，咁我哋將會請多7000個啲 care workers 喺呢啲護理院啊同埋醫院嘅工作，我哋都有請多咗500個，即係追尋呢個應該係 isolation， 即係去隔離嗰啲人士嘅。咁我哋今年嘅秋天嗰個flu season 咧，我哋會多購買50萬劑呢個疫苗嘅嗰個總共200萬。
聽識。
總共有200萬嘅 doses 嚟保護我哋各位民眾嘅健康。咁我哋亦都make sure 我哋啲 care worker 咧就唔喺周圍不同嘅facility 去做工。
Thank you very much， 多謝晒，唔該晒。而家咧，我哋進入第3個環節啦。其實呢一個咧就係今日呢個論壇最刺激嘅一個環節嚟嘅。咁啊係咩咧？就係候選人互相提問嘅時間。咁啊，每人咧有一次發問嘅機會，每條問題咧連同翻譯咧係有2分鐘。每條問題咧係需要指定一個對手。咁啊，回答嘅咧亦都係連同翻譯咧有2分鐘嘅。Okay, we are going to the highlight of today's forum. It's being cross debate between candidates, okay? Each candidate can ask a question to one of your opponents. The time limit, including translation, is 2 minutes. The opponent will have 2 minutes, including translation, to answer. And you have to specifically say which one you're going to be asking the question. Okay? Are you guys ready? Okay, let's start with the Liberal, 自由黨.
Yeah, I would like to, can I start?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the Green Party candidate if in the next election, if we get a minority government, will the BC Green Party support the NDP as they have done in the last administration?
我首先提問係俾綠黨，如果下次嘅黨選舉係都係少數嘅政府嘅時候，綠黨係咪會繼續支持新民主黨呢？
No.
You done, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The last administration has implemented 23 new taxes on British Columbians and has made life less affordable for British Columbians. And I would like to know if that is something that the BC Green Party will continue to support going into this after this next election.
如果係呢個時候 NDP 推出嘅23歲收，請問綠黨係咪繼續會支持係呢個下選嘅政府呢？
Done? Okay.
Green Party.
Thank you for the question. I actually am really hoping that we do have another minority government situation, because I think the absolute worst thing that can happen in a democracy is for any one party to have absolute power. Everywhere where Greens have been elected around the world, they have shown themselves able to work with people from across the political spectrum, across party lines, to focus on the issues and to focus on the things that need to be done. The problem with government is that they never move forward on the issues that everybody cares about. When I talk to people on the street, everybody cares about the environment. Everybody cares about health. Everybody cares about public education. And yet the Liberals and the NDP for decades have been arguing with each other and never making progress on the things that matter most to citizens in British Columbia. If I am elected to represent Vancouver Fraserview, I guarantee you that I will work with whoever is going to implement the most progressive, forward-thinking, 21st century policies to get the job done.
多謝你嘅提問。作為綠黨嘅代表，我係其實希望有一個少數嘅政府，因為最差嘅情況呢，其實呢就係一黨獨大，所以我亦都希望有多啲聲音。其實而家政府好多時佢哋都唔會去理解一啲其實市民真正認為重要嘅問題，例如環境、燃油、就業等等。所以呢，如果 NDP 真係可以成為少數政府嘅呢，我哋綠黨係一定會支持嘅。
Thank you.
Okay. The next candidate will be NDP 係由新民主黨提問。
The question is directed to the Liberal. We heard that the Liberal will cut PST for a year. Now that puts an $8 billion hole in the provincial budget. I'm wondering what the Liberal will do in order to do that, because they will cut services, they will cut healthcare, they will cut schools and close schools. And we don't think that's a very wise decision. For example, let's just spur consumption on people who could afford rich things. For example, if you buy a $200,000 car, you'll be saving $14,000 in taxes. But does that spur the economy? It doesn't, because we don't make the car. So I'm very concerned about that, and that is why I asked the question. 我咧想問自由黨咧，佢哋宣布話佢哋會將取消呢個省嘅稅。咁咧呢個咧嗰個 cost 咧每年就80億嘅。咁呢80億裏邊嚟講，係咪對我哋對呢個經濟嘅復甦有好處咧？譬如有一個人佢想買嘅20萬嘅靚車，佢係一年可以慳到14,000蚊，但係究竟嚟講咧，嗰啲錢會唔會喺個經濟嗰度循環呢？因為我哋唔係整嗰架車噶嘛，我哋喺呢度，所以我就認為話自由黨如果咁做嘅時候咧，佢會cut 咩服務 ，cut 咩醫療設施，或者關閂咩學校。
Okay. Thank you. Liberal.
We intend to make no cuts to services. Our leader, Andrew Wilkinson, who's a doctor and a lawyer, has mentioned several times that there will be no cuts to services for the public, particularly in a pandemic.
就係我哋嘅自由黨嚟講呢，我哋係唔會 cut 任何嘅服務嘅。大家知道我哋個黨領呢係一位醫生同埋一個律師，佢好清晰到即係服務係需要喺邊度。
The cut to the PST is far more effective than giving people $1,000. That is not creative at all.
如果你 cut 咗呢個 PST 呢，就係帶動咗呢個收入呢，就係多咗1000蚊嘅，係冇減收咗任何嘢。
A cut in the PST increases consumption. It promotes consumption because it's a consumption tax. Giving people $1,000, they can just put it in the bank. They can pay down debt. It doesn't increase consumption.
我哋 cut 咗呢個 PSC 呢，就增加咗呢個消費者嘅循環啦，帶動咗個經濟繁榮。咁所以呢1000蚊嚟講呢，咁個消費者呢可以留嚟係還呢個一啲債項性啊，或者係一個消費上嘅需要嘅。
Cutting the PST will promote small businesses and grow the economy. The NDP's plan is to tax you with another 23 taxes in the next 3 years, like they already have done.
咁我哋 cut 呢個 PSC 呢，其實推廣到我哋嘅小型生意啊，帶動咗呢個經濟嘅繁榮對我哋嘅稅項上係其實有幫助嘅。
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Green Party.
Okay, so I have a question now. Well, I guess it's only fair that I ask my NDP counterpart, since he hasn't answered a question yet. George, I'm also one of your constituents, and I emailed you a couple of times about education funding and was disappointed to never get an answer. And as a teacher, I'm really concerned by the continued underfunding of education. My mother was a teacher under the Socreds. She was a teacher under the NDP government in the 90s. And of course, I started teaching under the Liberal government. And unfortunately, the record of the Liberals and the NDP when it comes to education funding since I graduated from high school is to cut and cut and cut. If I think about your stance on public education, the NDP's stance on LNG, Site C, fish farms, old growth logging, and of course the continued underfunding of public education, what can you say to progressive voters in Vancouver-Fraserview to convince them that your voice deserves to be heard in Victoria more loudly than mine? I have been fighting for this my whole life.
當我哋我首先係想問新民主黨嘅候選議員，當我哋考慮 NDP 對液態天然氣西施養魚場林木砍伐同埋不足嘅公共學校撥款立場，點解選民要相信你同埋相信你會比我更加為佢哋發聲呢？
Thank you for the question, and thank you for asking about education. I think in terms of class size, it has never been lower for decades that we are in government now. And we also build playgrounds so that parents doesn't have to raise money. So if your school district is a little bit short on money or is not as wealthy as other schools, you would have the same playground. So we want to level the playing field. We have devoted an extra $2 billion to build school facilities, and we're working with the teachers, we're working with the parents. School is on top of our agenda, and I think we are very happy that we reach an agreement with the teachers, and we'll go forward with more initiatives. And I think that's very important. As far as the environmental issue, we have a great environmental plan. We will make zero emission vehicle mandatory by 2040. 咁我哋呢個綠黨嘅候選人問我關於我哋教育嗰個工作咁啊，咁教育工作咧，我哋今年咧，即係我哋從政咧，就擺多咗成20億嘅錢喺嗰度，班房嘅人數咧，就已經係喺歷年嚟講咧就最低㗎啦。咁我哋亦都為咗公平起見咧，就政府攞錢嚟去即係起嗰啲遊樂嗰啲playground 嗰啲設施，唔係需要啲家庭父母咧去籌款嘅。咁呢個咧對於有啲唔係好富裕嘅校區咧係相當有幫助嘅。
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, all three candidates. And we'll break for the first half of it, and we'll come back in about 2-3 minutes. 好啦，而家我哋先聽聽客戶信息，跟住我哋翻嚟有下一節嘅環節。好啦，大家我都想提大家咧，就係下一個環節咧就係公眾發問。咁如果你有問題問呢3個議員咧嘅候選人咧，你可以打電話上嚟604-267-1320。Just to remind our audience, the next part will be calls from the audience. Hotline is 604-267-1320。歡迎翻嚟第二節嘅2020 BC 省嘅選舉論壇。Okay, thanks for coming back to the 2020 election forum, and we'll continue with the calls from the audience. Okay, the first caller is Mr. Zhang. 張生你好。
10秒。
係好，最有貢獻咧，梁真全。好啦，
有嚟啦。
咁啊，講下想問下綠黨咧，
Okay.
問下佢覺唔覺啊？呢個咁嘅病毒咧，同我哋溫室嗰啲效應係有即係高波warming有關係咧？
Okay. The first question is by Mr. Zhang. He is asking Green Party, and he was asking if there is any connection between the global warming and COVID-19. You have 2 minutes.
So I think the connection between global warming and COVID-19 is more of an economic connection, that we've seen that in the COVID-19 pandemic, the people that have been suffering the most tend to be people from lower socioeconomic groups. Also, The connection is that, when we saw the early days of COVID-19, there was a complete shutdown of industrial activity. And we saw very quickly the environment was starting to return. There were animals that were coming back into urban areas. The air was clean. Cities that are used to a lot of pollution didn't see the pollution because the industrial activity had stopped. What it showed us, what the COVID-19 pandemic has showed us, is that it is possible for government and for society to act quickly when faced with a problem. And that is exactly the same kind of action that we need to mobilize now to deal with the climate crisis.
Translation.
翻譯咁㗎。
係，首先我覺得溫室效應同呢個新冠疫情係有些少聯繫嘅。喺呢個經濟層面上面咧，最主要，尤其是喺啲低收入嘅人士，佢哋係比較艱難嘅，尤其是同埋最早期喺經濟close 咗嗰陣時咧，我哋係睇到啲空氣係清潔咗啦，啲動物出翻嚟啦，所有環境都係變得好咗嘅，所以其實政府同埋呢個社會係可以做啲嘢，令到呢個環境係好啲嘅。
Thank you。下一位聽眾咧係朱生，朱生你好，朱生你好。
有關自由黨嘅3個黨綱有啲問題，咁第一咧就係嗰個5蚊唔係10蚊一日嘅入托嘅，究竟係要花費幾多錢嘅 budget 咧？佢哋唔知唔知咧？咁另外第二咧就係而家現有嘅馬斯吞路咧，咁就要重新建一個10線嘅大橋咧，又要幾多 budget 咧？知唔知咧？第三就係7% 嘅 PST 減咗之後咧，聽講就係少咗70幾億嘅庫房收入，咁佢哋點樣去平衡翻咧
？Okay. The next question is from Mr. Chu, and it's towards Liberal Party. He has quick question actually. Okay, he was asking about what have you budgeted for the $10 caretakers, child caretakers? Okay, and what have you budgeted for the Marcy Tunnel if you're gonna build a new one? And what happened to the 7% PST? How are you gonna handle that?
So the Massey Tunnel project, we have budgeted $8 billion, which is the largest infrastructure budget in our British Columbia's history. It will create many jobs and create many opportunities for British Columbians, and as well will help to reduce a significant traffic jam here in Vancouver and in the Lower Mainland, and the largest traffic jam, by the way, in Western Canada. These types of projects, infrastructure projects, create more economic opportunities and grow our economy.
回應第一個問題就係關於個 Marcy Tunnel 嘅，我哋將會有80個 billions， 咁呢個最大嘅筆咧係歷史性。咁我呢個工程咧係將會創造咗好多工作，好多個機會俾商業，咁而係將會減少咗好多嘅交通嘅阻塞。咁而因為交通阻塞喺我哋西加拿大嚟講咧係一個好嚴重性嘅，所以呢個就係橋嘅需要嘅重要性。
Childcare, supporting families with childcare and affordable childcare has clearly shown that it creates more opportunities, particularly for women, and actually results in families earning more income when they know that they have secure, safe, and reliable childcare at an affordable price.
我哋第二個問題係回應係10蚊入學嗰個 budget 啦。咁而家呢一個程序咧係可以幫助到我哋好多女性係即係媽媽啦，咁照顧小朋友嘅時候咧，咁而係增加咗佢嘅收入咧，係對佢嘅生活上咧係平衡得到嘅。
BC Liberals have always been known to be able to grow the economy, and those are where we're going to get our resources from in order to provide these services.
我哋 BC 省自由黨咧係絕對明白呢個經濟嘅社會嘅進步咧係需要一個前進嘅。
You got one more? Okay. Next is 周太。周太你好。周太。
Hello，
周太你好。
大家好，我知道咧，而家目前咧 COVID-19 同埋點樣恢復經濟係好重要，但係有一樣咧，希望咧大家留意，其實呢個問題本應咧係諗住係俾3位答嘅，但係如果只係揀一個答，我希望 NGP 答啦。咁就係關於啲踩單車嘅人士啊。 因為佢哋都係道路使用者，但係佢哋就唔需要登記註冊，又冇規定佢哋戴頭盔，冇規定啲發光設備同埋啲響號，就算有規定都係冇人執法。咁啊隨時咧當自己係行人。
OK， 好啦，多謝晒啊周太。George, do you need me to translate or?
So she's asking whether the provincial government will regulate bicycle riding, and I think that's something that we could look into if we were re-elected. I am all for safe ride for everyone and safety for vehicles as well as for bicyclists, and I think it's a good venture for people who ride bicycle because it's good health and also helps the environment. 咁我認為咧，我哋如果繼續當政咧，我哋會係去尋求睇下我哋需唔需要去 regulate 呢一樣嘢，因為踩單車嚟講咧，對於身體啊同埋對於呢個環境咧都係好好嘅。咁當然我哋亦都希望即係不論揸車嘅人士同埋踩單車嘅人士咧，大家都安全。咁喺呢一方面，我哋需要去研究下，我哋而家係咪有咁嘅需要去做呢一樣嘢
？OK， 多謝晒。咁我哋再聽聽下一個電話，係張生。張生你好。張生你講啊。
係就咁。我而家問題想問下 NDP 啊，周生嘅。琴日我打電話嚟講個問題就係話 Uber impact 我哋的士行業好緊要，加埋而家 COVID-19， 我哋嘅而家嘅生意額得翻20-30%。我問佢你哋 NDP 係咪想有咩辦法拯救我哋啊？定係要我哋呢個行業消失咧？琴日你位同事咧就
咁張生問嘅問題啊 ，Mr. Zhang asked a question relating to Uber. He's a taxi driver actually. He said, with COVID-19, what will NDP do related to Uber? Are they going to get rid of taxi?
In regard to Uber and the taxi issue, the NDP has done a lot in terms of helping the taxi driver to adjust, because we did say that we're going to create a level playing field. For example, the taxi driver asked for Class 4 license, and we deliver that. The taxi driver asked for help in terms of transporting the disabled people. We levy a special fee so that that money goes to the taxis that transport disabled persons. So we're doing all we can to help them, but the major problem with the taxi right now is because we are not having tourists, and the tourism industry is down, and that affects everything. And also, of course, we need to keep the distance. 可以用中文啦嚇呢個的士行業咧，我哋係好關注嘅。咁我哋亦都係盡量係能夠做到，即係係咪呢個優步或者係的士咧，佢哋都係同一個 level playing field。咁的士佢問我叫我哋話如果啲的士司機咧一定需要有第4 number 4 class 4嘅 license 咧，咁我哋已經做到咗啦。咁對於即係去transport 嗰啲有身體障礙嘅人士咧，我哋咧亦都喺佢嗰度咧就特別加一個特別嘅費用，咁呢啲錢咧就嚟俾啲 taxi driver 嘅。咁對於嗰啲 taxi 嗰啲 fee 咧，即係佢哋嘅 license fee 咧，我哋酌量亦都已經係做咗。咁當然我哋仲可以做再多啲嘢。咁我哋亦都希望喺 insure 嗰方面咧。同 ICBC 繼續商討，能夠等佢哋咧喺 insure 嗰方面都得到優惠。
OK， 多謝晒 ，thank you。OK， 跟住落嚟咧係陳生，陳生要咧係問 NDP 一個問題嘅。陳生你好，陳生。
我 Hello，
等緊你。
我想問 NDP 咧，呢一個嘅毒品嘅問題嘅。係。咁就染咗毒品。染咗毒癮嗰班人嘅時候，政府平均即係一個人要用成2萬人一個月去打理佢哋，咁咧就亦都係冇呢一個嘅
好啦，the next question is actually towards NDP. They were asking about the drugs.
Well, in terms of the drug problem, it's a huge problem, particularly with the overdose. We have more people dying from drug overdose than COVID. And I think this is something that we are very concerned, and that's why when we got into government, we actually started a new Ministry of Addiction and Mental Health. And that's very, very important in terms of resolving the issue. I think we got to look at this issue being a medical issue. It's not a criminal issue. So we'll continue to work on that solution, and we rely on the professionals such as doctors and other professionals to help us on that. 咁我哋成立咗政府之後咧，我哋就首要就係成立咗一個咧隱僻同埋呢個精神病嘅廳嚟去去做呢一樣嘢啦。咁呢個毒品問題咧係相當嚴重嘅，佢嗰啲死亡人數咧，即係比我哋而家 Covid 嗰啲人咧仲多嘅。咁呢個亦都唔係話一個係刑事嘅事，我哋咧係將佢認為呢個係一個medical problem， 係一個健康嘅問題，同埋呢個係一個心理健康嘅問題。所以喺呢方面我哋會繼續去做。
OK。多謝晒，跟住落嚟咧，最後一個電話咧係有阿 Jeff， 你好啊 Jeff 你好，係，
我想問 NDP 嘅，
係你繼續問啦。
而家 COVID-19 咧，而家話要請7000個嗰啲 healthcare worker， 而啲 healthcare worker 而家個待遇咧咁低，你邊個可以入行啊？而家入行嘅人都好少啊，越嚟越少，差唔多要脫節㗎啦。而家個待遇同比嗰個9000嘅阿姨都更少啦。
Okay.
Yes, the pay scale for care workers in a lot of the cases are low compared to other occupation, but we have increased the minimum wage when we took power, so that by April next year the minimum wage would be $15.20, and we know that's below the living wage, and we continue to work on that in order to bring that up, and that is something that we know that would help the COVID and healthcare for seniors and for people, because our party, our government look after the people. We want to make life affordable. What is life affordable? People has to be paid a decent wage in order to live. So we're very cognizant of that. 咁呢位先生問咧我係好同意，因為我哋一般嗰啲 care worker 咧，嗰啲護理嗰啲咧，尤其是喺呢啲護理室做嘢，即係長者護理啊嗰啲咧，佢哋嘅人工真係好低嘅。以前係低，等於低過而家我哋呢個15蚊嘅最低工資嘅。咁而家佢哋得到提升，但係始終嚟講咧，都係唔達到一個水平咧，佢哋願意作出咁多貢獻，比較對佢個人生存安全啊各方面。咁我哋喺呢一方面咧，我哋係要做多啲功夫嘅。咁喺呢個護理嗰方面咧，我哋已經係使咗成好多億咧，就係愛嚟將佢哋啲人工加多啲，同埋咧亦都等佢哋咧唔需要去不同嘅護理院去工作，因為如果喺不同嘅護理院工作嘅時候咧，佢哋會係將呢啲咁嘅疫情咧就會擴散去出去嘅。咁呢個係一個相當有挑戰嘅，我哋會繼續去跟進。
Okay, we are coming into the final part of our forum, and each candidate, including translation, will have 1 minute to wrap up. 而家咧到論壇最後一個環節啦，就係候選人結論嘅時間。每個人咧會有1分鐘嘅時間。首先，我有請新民主黨 NDP。
何錦同我哋新民主黨嘅政綱咧，係結合喺過去3年進步嘅基礎上，改善醫療護理啊，創造優質嘅就業同埋機會啊，同埋減輕民眾嘅生活負擔啊。呢項計劃咧會係家庭提供經濟復甦嘅補助。咁喺新冠肺炎出嚟之前咧， 我哋已經開始修補過去自由黨16年執政遺留嘅問題。We are very concerned about what the Liberal did in 16 years. So in the 3 years that we have been in power, we have embarked on improving the healthcare system, making affordable housing, and in general making life more affordable for people. And we are looking after their family, and this is why we come up with the idea of $1,000 per family who earns less than $120,000 a year.
Green Party, 綠黨, please.
Thank you for paying attention to this debate tonight. It's an important one. Our children's future is at stake. In BC, we currently give $1 billion of public funds to oil and gas companies. That's something that both the NDP and the Liberals support. How much does the public get back? We get only $200 million in royalties out of that $1 billion that we give away. If I am elected, I will fight to end these fossil fuel subsidies. I will fight for our children's future. I will fight for a cleaner tomorrow.
今次嘅競選係好重要嘅，因為我哋係需要建立一個更好嘅未來俾我哋嘅小朋友。而家個政府佢俾咗1 billion 去啲煤炭石油公司，但係公眾其實攞翻幾多呢？我哋而家要係去完結更多嘅津貼俾呢啲油公司，而將呢啲錢係用落教育小朋友度嘅。
Liberal Party, 自由黨, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. We are in multiple crises: overdose crisis, a health crisis, an economic crisis, and a climate crisis. This is going to be the most important election in a generation. There are opportunities now to put forward big, bold, visionary policies to grow our economy and make life better for all British Columbians. We must get it right. The solutions are not going to be like the 23 taxes the NDP have put forward already in 3 years. A tax is not a plan. We need a better future for our children and grandchildren, so I ask for your vote. Vote BC Liberal.
我係省自由黨，我哋而家目前喺一個大災難期間，係面臨一個好重要性嘅選舉。將來嘅推出嘅政策呢，係深深遠影響咗我哋好多個代，呢個下一代。咁我哋係需要一個好大膽創意嘅想法，去解決我哋嘅問題，唔係淨喺稅項上嘅加上去，好似 NDP 新民主黨23嘅稅項。稅收不是係長期計劃。如果我哋係需要一個繁榮嘅社會呢，我哋希望大家係投票俾自由黨。
Okay, thank you for your participation. 好多謝各位參選人同埋收音機旁邊嘅聽眾。